Okay. Good morning and welcome to Aware, or good evening or good day, no matter where you are in the world. We are here with you today.
From Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne, Australia. Beautiful sunny day, but you know what? It could change very soon. We are so excited that you're joining us today. As you've seen us before in our prior podcasts and webinars, that today is about continuing our process of moving through the Aware Arc. And the Aware Arc is really about identifying all of those elements within us, outside of us, how we're interpreted, how we intend, and how you can really discover, build, and platform forward to identifying what you don't know.
I'm Sarah Godfrey, and this is Nikki Mackie, and we're the co-founders of the Aware Mindset Coaching Tools. And so let's dig in. If you've done your ARC, which is an Aware Reality Check quiz, and you got a score of Connect or Connection, this is really more relevant about you. And this is an example of the promotional skill sheet that you'll get, which is a $7 bargain, just to show you what we do and give you a taste for the monthly Aware packages that are online right now, if you're interested.
Fantastic. And look, you're probably wondering, who are these ladies?
Who are we?
Who are we? Well, you know what? One of the really strong advantages of Aware, and why we decided to do this, is that independently for 20 years each, we have been working with people, making a difference, and giving them those skills and strategies along the way to be able to improve not only their own skill set, but improve those around you and the impact you have on others. And because really between us, and there's not many coaches out there that are still, actively engaged in the development of others.
Well, there's Tony Robbins, and Brene Brown is still in our age bracket, still out there doing it. But it is something about the experience we bring, which has allowed us to develop these tools that are evidence-based, meaning our clients have done them. This is the work we've done with 20 years, which is over 100,000 people combined. So these are the tricks of the trade that people would normally pay us a lot of money to learn individually. And we decided we're at the time of our life where why don't we just give it out to the world in a package, which is the monthly Aware package.
Absolutely. And the value of both of us with, Sarah's background as a psychologist, mindset coach, and director of her own business for greater than 20 years, and myself from a business strategist perspective and
director of your own business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two directors,
is that we've been able to take a lot of theory and really put it into things that are practical. And I think that's probably the most common feedback that we get, is that we're very practical in our approach. So anyway, that's enough about
you can
us.
read that stuff later.
Absolutely. Let's not go that way, but go the other way and look at, well, what really is connection?
So for your Aware Reality Check quiz, this is just one of the 60 skill tools that we've developed. And this one is just specifically for connection in one area, which is emotional awareness. And the question is, isn't it, do you miss your mark when you try to connect with people? And this can be as a leader, in business, in relationships, with family members. We're talking about the ability for people to get who you are, what you're trying to say, what you're trying to achieve, and for you to read that properly without miscuing or getting blindsided along the way.
Absolutely, because, and we'll go through a few different examples, but all those times where, we're toddling along with our own conversation, and then we realize that people are just looking blankly at us and going, I really have no idea what you're talking about.
And as a psychologist, one of the most interesting things working with people is, like, you think you're being very clear about what you're saying, because, often in our line of work and as coaches, you need to think about the words that are coming out of your mouth. And then somebody will repeat that back to you next session, and you're like, how did they get that from that.
Absolutely.
And that's where we wanted to delve into that a little more and go, why is there a miscue, and how can we not create that little level of confusion, which can end up being a big bit of chaos.
Absolutely.
If not resolved.
And particularly, I think it happens so often in relationships, but also in leadership roles, because, there's some natural obstacles that people don't want to, raise those vulnerabilities or look like, hang on, is it me as to why I didn't get it?
Yeah. Or even just checking. People are really nervous about saying, so what did you hear when I just gave that?
Absolutely.
Especially when you're with groups, if you ask that question around a table, I think you'll get like 80% will have a different interpretation of what your intent was.
Absolutely.
So connection is about that. It's about watching your own space and making sure that you're doing your best to deliver the kind of connection that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know what happened on that page, but anyway, well, it's catching up. Is connection is really, when we talk about it from a social connection perspective, we mean that it's the feeling that you belong to a group and you generally feel close to other people.
Yeah, definitely. And it's about the evidence that is around saying that one of our most deepest core psychological needs is the sense of belonging, and it's essential to be satisfied with your life to build these connections. And that can even be a connection with your local butcher or the cafe owner down the road. Each connection we make actually makes us feel more and more fulfilled, and that's why being connect is one of our biggest components of the Aware program, because it's such an essential, isn't it, for a happy life?
Well, it's really that validation, and certainly, over the period of COVID and social isolation that has occurred as a result of that. I mean, I was talking to someone on the weekend who even said, they've started going back into the office, and they were saying, I didn't realise how much, even just the experience of getting that morning coffee from the same barista who would say, have a nice day, or getting on the train and having incidental conversations and interactions with people, that it really has heightened, I think, everyone's awareness so much more of the importance that even just those little moments of connection create in overall wellness and happiness.
I think so. And so let's look at the next slide, where we're going to ask you a few questions. And you can get a piece of paper and jot these down along the way. But when you're connecting, a good thing to start with is whose needs are important when you're having a conversation, or when you're about to deliver a conference, or when you're doing a masterclass, or even when you're doing a webinar like
Absolutely.
we are. One of the things is whose needs are important. And for us, your needs are important. Hence, we've got the slides so that you can track that as well as listen to us talk. But you can also go back. So whose needs are important in every connection that you're making?
Yeah, and I think, adding to that is that I know when I talk and, do a lot of sort of business strategy work, and, Sarah does as well, in building plans for people around the area of connection, it's really about walking in the shoes of the person that you're connecting with. And so often, because, we do this all the time, but we still get nervous standing up in front of people doing these sorts of sessions, is that you're so caught up in the moment, aren't you, of sort of trying to deliver your script, deliver your message, that sometimes we forget that there's a whole bunch of people sitting in front of us, sitting next to us, that, may not get where we're coming from.
And to reduce your social anxiety around that, if you get out of your own headspace and think, this isn't about me, this is about my audience, you actually stop worrying about how you're looking and how you're presenting, and you start thinking about how is the engagement, what are they getting out of this conversation or this workshop or conference or skills sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that leads really well into the next question around who takes that initiative to connect. So what do you do if you're, say, Sarah, what would you do if you're standing in front of, an audience of 200 people. Just the same as if you were sitting next to me and I was really quiet. What are some of the things that you can do to try and enhance that connection?
Definitely the first thing is, if they're quiet, don't come in loud and try and make them noisy. You know, drop your level to match the level. So if you're doing a morning conference or a morning workshop, firstly, people have got more energy, so you can lift. You know, you can start with a joke, start with a story showing kind of example of your life or why you're there, and then moderate it down through the evening and through the afternoon. The easiest thing is to think, what if I was sitting in the audience and I was watching me? What would I want? So what you want is information delivered really well. But this is about any conversation. So if you're at a social party and you're kind of standing there and everyone's quiet, you can initiate the lead by asking someone something. And we saw that at the Prime Minister's breakfast, where a woman said, okay, well, why don't we all ask ourselves something, tell each other something about ourselves and who we are. And it was a lovely little icebreaker. The idea is, why are you connecting? And who is supposed to make the initial relationship start?
And I think that's so important, because, you know, we put so much pressure on ourselves and to come up and sound the smartest or the funniest or engage the most, but it's all about who takes that initiative. And there are so many easy techniques to do it without pushing people outside their comfort zone.
Just being curious. I always say, asking a curious question. If you're in a business meeting and you can see that everyone's nervous and anxious, you know, you can start. You don't have to be the CEO to start a conversation. It's about taking the initiative to begin, to connect, and to lead the way through. And this is where we are working on our social awareness heavily, with social effectiveness, in building your social confidence, so you can be that person.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's sort of one of the other areas that it's really important is, you know, how much do you really value those social relationships? You know, I touched on it before in terms of some of the most common feedback out of COVID is, you know, that we've missed things, but how much do we actually value them?
That's right. So if you're talking to someone and you don't value their information, their life experiences, their knowledge, be it that they've worked in a checkout all their life or they're a CEO of a global company, then the relationship isn't going to bond. So it's about understanding the value is one human being to another. The conversation is about, again, being curious. The person you're talking to has their own story, their experiences. And if you value that and think it can add to your own life story or narrative, then you are valuing a social relationship. The minute you put yourself, you know, like above or below someone, you're devaluing that experience, and it won't work, and you won't walk away feeling you had something added, some value added.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things that Sarah and I are both very strong advocates on is authenticity. And, you know, knowing your own limitations, but also knowing that every limitation you could find, people like us and people that are watching this webinar today, you're the people that have the openness to identify them and to do something about them. And, you know, even sometimes, as, you know, some of the things that you do are going to make you unpopular. You know, how much can you accept that?
And for the mindset coaches out there that we are saying these are really new, good tools, you know, there's a thing about being a therapist that if you don't make your client angry at some point, or they don't challenge you back at some point, you're not doing your job. And so I think a lot of coaches fall into the friend zone. You know, they get really buddy-buddy. Our role is to be challenging. Our role is to unhook people from patterns that they're in. So part of being socially effective and part of connecting is understanding you're not everyone's cup of tea. Sometimes you're going to be unpopular, and sometimes what is needed to be said or actions have to be taken won't be the most popular decision, but it's the best decision. And that's a real hurdle for a lot of people, because they want to be liked.
Absolutely.
And they want approval and they want to be popular.
Well, you know, and it's natural human behaviour. No one wants to you know, we take these things personally because you don't want to be seen as unpopular. However, sometimes being unpopular is the most courageous thing you can do for another, is because you're actually giving something back. Just like we said at the start of this slide, you know, it's about walking the talk and walking in the shoes of who your audience is, who it is that you're trying to connect with.
And we talk a bit more about that in the next group, the commit one, about where authenticity becomes self-serving. It's a really fine line.
It is.
Between thinking you're being authentic and actually manipulating a situation for your own gain.
100%, because, you know, the common thread that we really want everyone to understand is that, you know, all of our research shows that 80% of people believe they're more self-aware than they actually are. So you're not the only one. If you've ever felt that you've stood in front of people, sat next to someone and started a conversation and it just didn't go anywhere, it just didn't work. And we've all had those moments, and not always potentially with a wine or a cocktail in hand.
Blood out of a stone there, trying to get this conversation going.
That's correct. That the biggest thing is to recognise that it happens to everyone. What our program does is move you into that 20% who are self-aware, but also our goal is to impact this statistic. We want more people to be aware, to grasp their impact, to know themselves and to know their audience.
And 80% is a big number, as you can see on that slide. And that's a research-driven percentage. But when you think of the amount of information out there, the amount of self-help books, coachings, therapy, all those things, the question underneath this is, why isn't it working? If we're doing so much self-development, why are 80% of people still not as aware as they should be? And the reason is because we do it at a superficial level. We do it enough to feel good, to get over the trauma, the moment, the whatever happened that drove you to think, oh, I need to understand myself more. And then we stop. We just go, I've learned enough. I like this version of me and I'm out. Our Aware program is about moving you away from that kind of self-satisfaction. I got it, I'm the best version, and keep digging and digging and digging so that you are just automatically in the zone.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, that's really, we talked before about uncomfortable moments, not being popular. That's really what we're about. We are about making sure that we can bounce you forward and, more importantly, challenge you without consequence.
That's right.
That's really, you know, what we're looking for. But to spark some extra thoughts about this, think about, have you ever had a time when you finished a conversation or delivered that presentation and you say, I have no idea if they just heard a word that I said.
And look, it's so easy to think that you're delivering, you know, a great speech, a great workshop, a great training, a great session. Like, you're in the zone and you're thinking, this is just gold, you know, everything coming out of my mouth is just landing. But again, that means that you're not being externally aware. All you are doing is reflecting that you think you're delivering something really great. And if you want an idea about that, you should pop onto our first podcast with Matthew Godfrey, who talks a very funny episode about where that actually happened. That lack of real awareness was a game changer. But it's true. And often we have been unsure about the people we're connecting with. We thought we were like having a nice conversation or we were getting along well, and then you don't hear from them again.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, our natural behaviour is to create some degree of blame or fault. What we want to, you know, identify and help you work through is more around opportunities for improved connection as opposed to self-judgment on effectiveness. And I think that's really important because, you know, it has such a significant contribution to your sense of, you know, feeling like you've got it and like you're doing really well. So because, you know, then we start getting that feeling that people don't like us. And when it becomes that emotional driven behavior, it can be incredibly dangerous, but also incredibly consuming.
Yeah, it can. We can get obsessed, like leaving parties is a common thing.
Yeah.
And then ruminating over every conversation you had, instead of thinking about what was the connection I was giving, what was I offering the person, rather than trying to win them over or show them who you are so you'll be likable. It's about the angle you're coming from, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And it is, again, as we've talked about, when we've really tried to, those occasions where you've tried to befriend someone, and no matter what you do, they're not open to it. And there comes a point where there needs to be that reflection to say, what's the driver for me to connect? And have I done everything in my power to influence that? And if you have, sometimes it's just okay to walk away.
Absolutely. Sometimes if you're coming from a centered place of awareness, that allows you to judge whether this person isn't, you know, part of your tribe, or whether you're mishandling this interaction so they don't get to see or know what opportunities you can offer as a person in their life.
Absolutely. And I think that really resonates to the key question for you is, do you know your connect vulnerabilities? So, you know, being able to look at any patterns, environments and different things that have occurred that may have influenced your ability to connect.
And we often call those our mental traps.
Yeah, you know? Very much so.
There are mindset mental traps that we all fall into. And often we think that's just who we are, or we think we're doing the right thing. And part of our skill sheets, our tools, are to take you through those things and then challenge you to then practice how not to do it in the real world.
Absolutely. And as I said, being that everything we do is whilst it's evidence-based, we've taken that evidence and put it into the language and activities more around what you can tangibly do to make things different. So what does connecting actually do to you?
We've done a lovely little glittery slide here to show it does make our brains light up, mainly in the prefrontal cortex area, which is here. So when we are connecting right, it does electrify our brains. We get a buzz. It does make us feel good when we land it right. Yeah. So the opposite is true too. When we fail in our connections, we don't get excited. We don't have the little brain buzz that we're all looking for. And so part of connection is, if we do it right, it joins parts of the brain that allows us to make complex judgments, allows us to make decisions that are clear, that are about the other person and that are about our well-being in that interaction.
And I think, you know, that's so true. We've all had those moments where, you know, we get a little spring in our step because those endorphins have gone off and really engaged us to move forward. But I think, you know, it's really about how do we look into how we interact, how we behave. And, you know, I'm a very visual person. And I have a memory like an elephant. So I would be going, if it was me sitting in your shoes, I go back to those moments and go, wow, that buzz came. What could I do again to replicate that?
Absolutely. And once we get that little firing off in the brain, what happens is we get an impulse to share. We want to bond.
Absolutely.
It is actually kind of the love drug. It makes us want to connect and share. And that's called the emergence of share. I want to know more about you. I want to share this very human experience. And that can be, it can be a conversation with your local grocer about how's your day, but connection, and we're open to sharing, which is so important.
It is really important, but it also sets the scene. It's a bit like Sarah and I get, when that level of engagement and spark goes off, because it just puts you in a creative space.
It puts you in,
and just, you know, it creates a greater strength of flexibility and ours. So that you can see more, you can react to more, and you can be ready for more.
And be happier.
Yeah.
Like the whole part of sharing and connecting is it does make us happy, which is why for depression and anxiety, I always say, you know, bring them along as friends that you don't particularly like, because as long as you're out and connecting social, you don't have to be the life of the party. Your brain is receiving these little impulses, these little love bites, and it increases that lovely interaction and it changes your behaviour. So that's why connecting is such a dominant part of our awareness reality check.
Yeah, and very much, because you can be incredibly curious, you're discovering the right choices, but if you can't connect with people, and that's where, you know, we are looking to move you forward to achieve that. And the gaps to sharing connections, there's so many common reasons.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is just a few, but I'm sure you could add and maybe add more on the Facebook page. It'd be lovely to hear what your gaps to sharing really is.
Yeah, because, you know, maybe it's that you've never been exposed. You know, I remember having team members working for me and saying, you know what, I really want, you know, I want you to present this. I want you to lead a project. I want, you know, you to do a particular activity, and then being so nervous that it felt like they were, you know, in a straitjacket. But having the belief with people and being there to coach them and move them forward is such an incredible reason. But it's finding out what is that.
And it's like, we worry about things like that we don't know the people we're talking about, so we worry about how we will be judged, or we lack the confidence to read the room and understand, you know, that the temperature as people get tired or get bored, and how to adapt that very, very quickly.
Yeah, and I think, you know, sometimes you feel like you're selling you, not your skill set. I mean, Sarah and I do this all the time. If we get nervous or something, we fall back to our natural instinct of using humour. But sometimes that's not the best thing to do, being more present. And it's certainly something that, you know, we've learned. And, you know, even after all these years of experience, you continue to learn. We've grabbed hold of that and said, there's a time, you know, there's a time and a place.
Yeah, but we control that.
That's correct. But we're in control of it because we've seen it, we've named it, and now we own it and we channel it in the right way. And so there's many, many things. As I said, this is not an exhaustive list, but it'd be great if you could share some of yours.
Yeah, one of those, if you're reading through and you're thinking, oh, yeah, I do worry about blushing or stammering or forgetting what I'm supposed to say, or just crowds, like lots of faces looking at me makes me nervous. Or maybe you're just an introvert, a shy person. You don't need that energy off crowds. It'd be lovely to hear what one of those gaps you resonated with and what you thought you could do some work on.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it's really important to find out what we call those pulse points, to find your vulnerabilities. And we said it before in a question, is that the point of going from knowing I've got them to actually coming up with a plan on how to control them is about first knowing exactly what those vulnerabilities are.
And that's why we have on the skill sheet for choice, we have the 10 missed mark moments, bit of a tongue twister there.
For connection.
Yeah. So you can look through and go, which one of those 10 moments, those missed mark moments, do I engage with, or do I think is actually sitting behind my anxiety or nervousness or feeling that I just didn't hit the mark when I wanted to.
And it'd be really interesting, you know, when you have the opportunity to do those, you know, 10 missed marked moments.
Oh, you said it better than me.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, is that I'm sure you will see a lot of common themes through that process. And, you know, that's where we're here to help and share with you, sharing some of those. We can give some tips and techniques and kind of help group them a little bit.
And for the professionals, you know, maybe it's something you could add to your toolkit about, have you checked in with your clients what their missed mark moments are, or where their pulse points are around connection and vulnerability.
Absolutely. And, you know, the others around that fear of speaking up so many times. I mean, I talk to myself all the time, is that you're running through everything in your mind. And sometimes we don't actually articulate it and share it. And because we're fearful of the potential consequences.
Yeah, no, look, there's a real level of being socially effective when you hear something that is wrongful. which isn't a value judgment, but more of a moral judgment, and being silenced because you just, again, don't want to be unpopular, or you're not sure how to say it, or you don't know if you're reading the room right, or you don't know if you've read what someone said correctly. So again, these skills are about allowing you to delve into that.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, Sarah raises a really good point around that alignment to values and also, you know, our moral compass and, you know, the world around, you know, if it be actions that people do, language that people use to describe cultures or individuals, you know, the only way in which to improve behaviour is to call it out.
Yeah, and that's again back to being able to tolerate that moment of being unpopular or judged.
Yeah.
The other thing is misreading your audience. That's a big one.
Absolutely.
Even on our podcast, we've had people and we've gone, gee, they misread us.
Absolutely. Or, you know, people that have, you know, been really, because in our podcast, when we talk about people's aha moments or when they felt vulnerable or a circumstance they were in, and it is amazing. And we often say some of our questions must be quite, you know, sort of digging to the root cause and inquisitive, that it's actually, you know, made professional speakers be really vulnerable and feel quite emotion. And we, you know, we don't like getting people upset, but it's a nice getting upset because it's connecting people back to that openness and authenticity that we all go through things.
And it's about the skill to make somebody feel safe.
Absolutely.
So that they can open up and have the skills to hold that moment without reacting or wanting to push it more. Again, being aware is about, why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? Why have I led this conversation to this place?
Yeah.
So knowing your audience and reading your audience is incredibly important, and it's a lot more difficult than people think.
Absolutely. And, you know, and that's really one of the strong capabilities within our 40 years plus and all those over 100,000 people that we've assisted, is it is the most transportable skill to family, to friends, to business, to leadership, to customers, to everything, is that connection point of knowing who you're trying to support, communicate with.
And the connection is the reflection of you, not about, you know, being the life of the party if you're not. It's really about knowing yourself and finding the social confidence and motivation to engage with others in your style, rather than trying to mimic or produce a different version of yourself.
Absolutely. Now, look, if you haven't had a moment, jump on board and 2-hour awareness quiz, and you'll be so surprised at probably how accurate.
We'll put a link directly in the chat after this.
Absolutely. So jump on board, take a few minutes, and we're always here to answer some questions.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah, if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat and we will get round to them.
Absolutely. But I think that, you know, all of this goes back to that the influencer to share and connect with your audience is the things that influence you seeing value of that engagement are, you know, really think about walking in the shoes of your customer. You know, walking in the shoes of your audience, walking in the shoes of your friend. You know, you might, I don't know about you, but those times when you're itching to see your best friend because you've got so much to tell them, and then you get there and they might appear to be disinterested, but you don't know what's going on in their mind.
That's right. Yeah, and it might not be that they're disinterested. It may be that there's something going on with them and you've been so excited that you haven't bothered to check in how they are.
Yeah, and
so
haven't seen
be aware of the reason you're in the room.
That's correct.
Whatever room that is.
Yeah.
Know why you're there, but also know that there's another human being present, or 10 or 100.
Absolutely.
And know how to read what is it that they want, what have they come for, you know, why has Nikki popped over for a cup of tea, why today?
Absolutely.
You know? So it's about digging in just a little bit more so that you can be connected.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, there's many reasons, and I'd really encourage you to think about what is your influencer.
What's the baggage you bring?
Yeah. What is
what's the suitcases that you bring to every conversation that you're not aware that you're slowly unpacking in front of everyone?
Absolutely. And I think, and Sarah touched on it before, is that at Aware, we're your gap filler. So we're here to help you identify the things that are holding you back, but also learn the confidence of that healthy, deep sharing around Connect. Now, that doesn't mean you have to tell everyone your warts and all.
Definitely not. I think Brene Brown says it really well when she says, don't overshare.
Yeah.
There's sharing and then there's oversharing. Like
correct.
Everyone needs to know every thought you had, every moment you've experienced, every trauma you've had. Again, social effectiveness is knowing the line between who do I tell this to and who do I tell that to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's around, the ability to move forward is owning those blind spots, naming them, noticing, and I'd really encourage you, after listening to today or the many times you'd like to listen to it, is go back to that list. What are your influences? What are those blind spots? And find out where they've come from. Because like with any problem solving capability, it's around the more you know the source, the more you can help come up with strategies to address it and to overcome it.
And we have to challenge its validity too. We can't just go through life going, I'm the kind of person who.
Yes.
I hate that saying, because we don't know what kind of person we are from decade to decade, hopefully, because we're continually growing. So challenge its validity. Just because that's the way you are, you think, you react, doesn't mean that's the continuum. You've got an opportunity at Aware to shape that and change that to fit your identity better.
That's correct. And that's what we help you by owning them and finding them. Then we'll give you a plan, we'll give you a strategy on how to move that forward. Because one of the things, there's a number of things we won't do at Aware.
We have a no list.
Yeah, we've got our own non-negotiables, and that is that we're never looking to change who you are inherently as a person. We're not going to give you the one size fits all. We don't want, little Aware people that all think and act the same.
We want you to remain unique, but more confident and more aware, basically more self-aware about who you are and how you appear in this world and how others see you, so that you can just keep improving your version of you.
And I think it's, what it really is identifying those internal voices to listen to, the ones that are a call to action and the ones that are noise, and how we best, work with those together.
So this is what it kind of looks like. On the top area where it says Aware Reality Check, you do your free quiz, you get your score, we get the skill package towards you, and then you've got your tasks, and it just keeps going like that. Once you've had a taste of that, you can join us on the monthly Aware package, which is our map. And that means you get 2 quizzes, or we call skill sheets, mindset coaching tools, a month, and each of them have tasks. That we have a reflection, which we think is really important. We also have some mindset meditations just to keep you on path and keep you calm, and a bit of relaxation after the hard work you've done. And we would really love you to join our private Facebook group, where we drop in and we can do some coaching with you.
Absolutely.
We can talk about what worked, what didn't. We'd love you to share your successes and your kind of struggles with trying to change your level of awareness into that top 20%, which is what we want is to be a top 50%, actually.
100%, because really, this is a mindset coaching tool for professionals, but also the self-motivated. We see so many people that have been on the self-discovery journey, but continue for one point being that nothing seems to have resonated, and that's what we're trying to do.
It's because there's a level, as we say, there's a level that a lot of coaching and therapy gets you to, which is to resolve the problem that was making you unhappy. And that a lot of people we talk to stop there. They think, yep, best version of me.
Yeah.
But over time, the blind spots and the hurdles and the hiccups are the lack of true awareness.
Yeah.
And we think that 80% of people think they're more self-aware than they actually are is true in our experience.
100%.
And we fell into that. So part of this for us is pushing us constantly to challenge our own level of self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just wanted to give you a bit of a taste today of who we are and what Aware is about. But please jump online, check out our website, email us any questions that you might have, follow us on socials.
Do the quiz, it's free, and at least it will start you thinking, you know, when you get the results, it starts you thinking about your own little gaps, but also ask yourself, how honest did I answer the questions too?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we're so thankful. Absolutely. So look, we're so thankful that you've joined us. We're excited to be able to assist you in your next journey and your growth. And we can't wait to share more time and more opportunities and help you go on the path and really turn what at the moment feels a little bit impossible into your next possible.
That's right. So our next and last webinar is on Commit, which is about authenticity. So you might want to jump in on that one as well.
Absolutely. So thanks so much and can't wait to talk to you soon.
See you next time.
Bye.